Okay. Now, for practical purposes in teaching trot diagonals, there's a few things that a student or a rider would need to know and understand before they're able to ride diagonals correctly. They need to be able to rising trot, so they need to be able to recognise the rhythm of the up, down, when they need to sit and when they need to rise. Students need to be able to understand the beat or the sequence of a horse's movements in both a walk and a trot. So in a walk, we will have our hind leg, then a front leg, then our other hind leg, then our other front leg. Whereas in our trot, it is a 2-beat sequence. Now, as you can see, I've got Kingston here. Now, on his right diagonal, he has green bandaging, and on his left diagonal, he has orange bandaging. So the beat for a trot is diagonal on the ground, diagonal off the ground, diagonal on the ground, diagonal off the ground. So when that diagonal is on the ground, that's when a rider needs to sit. But we'll go into that a bit later. But first, what we're going to talk about is for a student to be able to understand and correctly ride diagonals, identify diagonals and know when they need to sit, they need to understand how a horse moves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Kingston here, and I'm just going to get him to demonstrate walking on a circle. What we're going to look at is, the first thing we're going to look at is, as he's walking around in the circle, which leg takes the biggest stride. Now, if the student was actually on the horse, what I'd get them to do is just close their eyes, obviously on a lunge lead, but try and feel for when that horse takes the largest stride. Is it the inside leg that takes the largest stride, or is it the outside leg that takes the largest stride? And then after that, what we would need to do is get the student to think about where the impulsion or the drive comes from. So what we're going to do today is, as I get Kingston to move around in the circle, we're going to look at those things. We're going to look at A, which leg takes the bigger stride, and B, where the impulsion comes from. Because to be able to ride diagonals correctly, you need to be able to understand these things so that you can correctly ride diagonals and understand why you ride the diagonal that you do. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to get him to move out onto a circle. So first up, we're looking at what leg takes the bigger stride. Now, if you're watching him here, his outside leg is taking, so his green taped front leg is taking a bigger stride, and so is his orange hind leg. So that means that on both his front and his hind, his outside legs are taking the biggest stride. Okay, and this is also evident in a trot. So when he's trotting around there, you can see that he's taking a bigger stride with his outside leg. Okay, and the front inside leg is just taking a shorter stride just to allow him to bend around that curve. And the outside leg is coming around to help push his body around. Okay, now if we're looking at the impulsion of the horse, okay, when he's moving forward, he's using his hind legs to push. Now, as he's turning around to the left, you have a looking at his hind legs, and you see that his inside leg, so the one with the green tape on it, is actually the one that he is using and putting more weight on to create that impulsion. Okay, now if I get him to go around the other side, we'll see if this is evident on if this is evident on the other side as well, just so that we can clarify that yes, it is the outside leg that takes the biggest stride, and B, it is the inside hind leg that creates that impulsion. So just asking him to move around again. What we're looking for this time is which legs take the biggest stride. And as I said, if a student was on the horse, you'd ask them to close their eyes and just develop that feel for the horse and the horse's stride, and get them to feel which one is a larger stride. Is it the inside or is it the outside? Okay, so as you can see, once again, he short steps a little bit with his inside legs, and he takes that longer swinging stride with the outside leg. Okay, now that we can see that again on this direction, having a look at the impulsion and finding where our drive comes from. Once again, you can see he's just using that inside hind leg just a little bit more to push himself around. It is also a shorter stride. But as you can see, he's using that inside hind leg to create that impulsion even more. Okay, so now that we understand that it is our inside hind leg that creates the impulsion, what we want to do, okay, so now that we know that it's the inside hind leg that creates that impulsion, that drive forward, we need to make sure that when we are applying the aids at the best time possible to make the most of that forward moving impulsion and for the horse to understand our aids the best. Okay, so when we are riding the diagonal, what we need to do is we need to ride on the outside diagonal. Or what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're sitting when that horse is pushing forward with that hind inside leg. And obviously it's a bit hard to turn around and say, oh, now. So because they travel in diagonal pairs, what we do, instead of looking for the inside hind, we look at the outside fore. So when that outside fore is hitting the ground, that's when you need to sit.